All right. So again, we're back. Unfortunately, not with Doug tonight, but we have a very special guest, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, sir, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Sure. First, just want to say thanks to you and Doug for asking me to come on the show. My name's Elliott Van Dusen. I'm a retired RCMP officer. I did 15 years service with the RCMP. I've been investigating the paranormal for 24 years. I'm currently the corporate director of Paranormal Phenomena Research and Investigation, which is a nonprofit organization that investigates and researches the paranormal in Atlantic Canada and also the New England part of the United States.
Awesome.
I'm also the executive vice president of Ghost Project Canada, which is a project that Daryl Walsh and I are working on that is involving collecting local folklore and cases and stories and trying to break apart the information such as the geographical area, what type of phenomena it is, the duration of the sighting, and hopefully my co-founders, he's a computer expert. He's building a database right now that we can hopefully add all this information in.
Awesome.
And then make it available to the public.
Like it. Right on, man. So what kind of started you in your journey? What got you into the paranormal and how old were you? That kind of sort of thing.
Well, I've always been fascinated with the unknown. I kind of had a interest both in law enforcement and the paranormal. So shows like Unsolved Mysteries caught my attention because Unsolved Mysteries focused on unsolved homicides and also ghost sightings, UFO sightings, cryptozoology sightings. So I was always fascinated with that. And then once television shows like The X-Files came out and they showed investigating it, that's kind of when I got interested in it. So anytime somebody told me a story, I'd start by following up on it. I'd start reading any literature I could find on it. And it wasn't until I moved to Halifax when I met Daryl Walsh. He was teaching at the Nova Scotia Community College, a couple of parapsychology courses that I signed up and started kind of learning about it formally, and just kind of continued from there.
Right on. Awesome. So I know you have written a couple of books, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Another one in the works?
Got another one I'm working on. Yeah. The first one was called Evil in Exeter, and that was about haunting in Rhode Island that I investigated. The second book was Supernatural Encounters, true accounts from law enforcement. And because that book came out and I was getting a lot of emails and messages and stuff about it, I started to write a second one because I had a lot more law enforcement people contact me with more stories. So yeah, I've been working on that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, who better to tell stories like that, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of neat because it's like I said, law enforcement and paranormal are both like my two passions. And then I guess a lot of law enforcement people feel comfortable talking to me, knowing that I was, a law enforcement officer myself, kind of thing. Because it's kind of one of those things in the law enforcement field, like you don't really know if you should talk about it, kind of thing. And there's a lot of stigma that comes attached to the paranormal.
A lot of people aren't comfortable talking to it when they're in that, in that position, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Your book was excellent. So tell us a little bit more about the Evil in Exeter. Tell us what the story is behind that.
Yeah, sure. So with the Evil in Exeter, I had met a girl in May 2018. And we had met on Instagram. We just kind of talked about different interests and stuff like that. And one of them was the paranormal. And I was single at the time. And I said, I might come down and visit you or whatever. And I'll rent a hotel and we can go to a local bar and catch a hockey game or something. And so went down for a weekend. She showed me all around Rhode Island, like all the different cool haunted spots. There's a vampire grave. Mercy Brown is her name. Showed me a bunch of cool paranormal sites, and really got along. So decided to go back and visit her for a second time. And the second time she wanted me to stay at her place, but it came with a warning. And she said that she's been surrounded by hauntings her whole life, and just wanted to give me the heads up that anytime she has like a boyfriend or somebody that she likes over at the house, the activity seems to kind of pick up.
Wow.
So I didn't really think much of it, because I've conducted a lot of investigations. A lot of times, as you know, it's like watching paint dry on the wall, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But so sure enough, I go down there, and right off the bat, all kinds of stuff starts happening. You can hear footsteps approaching you when there's nobody there. Doors were opening and closing on their own. Um, Doors were locking and unlocking on their own. Her two children didn't sleep for several days in a row. They
Wow.
kept hearing scratching noises on the wall. And
Wow.
of course, being a police officer and even as a paranormal investigator, I'm a believer, but I'm a critical believer. So I went outside to make sure like the branches weren't touching the windows, or there wasn't a squirrel or a bird up on the windowsill. There was
Yeah.
absolutely nothing.
Wow.
The kids just kept hearing the scratching at the wall, um, and things just kind of progressively got worse and worse at our house. As the summer months went on, there was all kinds of like house flies that just started materializing out of nowhere, almost like in the Amityville horror.
Yeah.
We had actually had to buy like those fly tapes, and within a day it would catch like 30 of them, and there was no doors or windows open. It was just like these flies were just coming out of nowhere. They were
Wow.
keeping the kids up at all hours of the night. Um, there was electronics being manipulated. There was a Thomas a toy train that would go off in the like around 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would start chewing and causing all kinds of racket.
Wow.
There were strange messages showing up on Haley's cell phone. So, for example, her morning routine was to go downstairs with the cats and take care of the cats, and she had her son with her. And down the states, the young kids in pre-primary start school in the afternoon. So her daughter would be off at school. It would just be her and her son at home. So she had him down the basement one day, left her cell phone on the island upstairs, and when she came up, it was lit up. So she assumed either I texted her or her mother texted her. And when
Yeah.
she looked at it, it actually was something had spoken into Surrey, and it said, "Hey Surrey, Malik, dirty girl." So it didn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
So she calls me, and she's like in a panic, and she's like, "I don't know what this is, and it's really strange." And so we tried it on a bunch of different iPhones. So tried some from Nova Scotia, tried my buddy from Boston that's uses the same network that she does, AT&T,
Mm.
and the response was not what she had gotten, um, because her response, it said, "Hey Surrey, Malik, dirty girl," and the response was, "In my realm, you can be anything." Was the response.
Whoa.
Um, but when you actually said that into the phone, it said nothing like that. So it was kind of interesting. So I started thinking, I'm like, well, maybe Malik is the name of the spirit that's causing all these issues or whatever. So I started to do some research on Malik actually,
Okay.
and this is where it kind of gets really interesting. So a few years ago, before she even knew me, she had a psychic contact her sister and pass a message along. So the psychic didn't know Haley, but said that I have this message to pass along to your sister. There's a jinn attached to your sister,
Wow.
and he doesn't like other people around her and stuff like that, and he's really cruel. And so a jinn in the Quran is like a demon. So I looked up Malik, started doing some research on Malik, and Malik is actually part of the Quran, and it means king. He's like an archangel and a gatekeeper of hell,
Wow.
and he's aided by 19 other angels under his command, and he's known as like a tormentor and a punisher of souls that are trapped in hell. And so that morning, um, her son had no idea that this happened. That morning, her son brings her a photograph. It was a blue Sharpie with a stick figure, and it was like swirls all around it. So she's like, "Oh well, what's this picture that you're giving me?" And when she questioned him about the picture, she said, "Well, that's the boy that always plays in the fire in the toy room."
Oh.
And where the toy room is located in the house is where the tank train would always go off.
Wow.
So she got really freaked out by that. And then the third thing that happened that day, and ironically, in dynamic investigations, you always see a lot of threes. So the third thing that happened that day, ironically, is when she went upstairs to get clothes for her son to go to school. They had a statue of the Virgin Mary on top of their armoire, and this statue never moved. And she found it face down on the floor,
Oh
and
man.
it had been sitting up there for 6 months without any issues. And the kids always climb up on the top of it to like turn the TV channel and turn the TV off. But for whatever reason, this time the statue was actually face down on the carpet. I mean, is it possible one of the kids banged in the armoire and it knocked off? Sure, it is. But it just, when you start seeing all these coincidences
Yeah.
happen all in a short period of time, it kind of,
Yeah.
starts to make you think that there's something else going on. And it was the
Wow.
first time that a religious object in the house had been like molested by anything like that.
Really? So, yeah, and I mean, you have kids playing around. We know how kids can be, right? That, they're
Yeah,
really gentle. So, I mean, if that's the first time and the only time that fell,
yeah, it was the first and only time.
wow.
There was other things too that started to kind of lead me down the path on, is this a haunting or is this something a little bit more mischievous? So another thing that happened was on one of the visits, one of the psychics had one of the trusted psychics that we had felt that there was a portal up in the master bedroom.
Wow.
So we had lifted the roof, the little panel off to go up into the attic, and it was loaded with insulation, so I didn't want to crawl through it. But we just kind of like splashed some holy water in the corner where this porthole allegedly was. And I commanded that it, give us a sign, and had it all on audio tape, asking for any sort of sign that there was something there. And there was
Wow.
absolutely nothing. The next day, her son started acting extremely strange. He started to show like an aversion to religious objects, and he's
Wow.
5 years old at the time, so
Whoa.
they don't go to church. They're not like, they're
Yeah.
Catholic, but they're not like practicing.
Yeah.
He wouldn't wear anything that was blessed, so there was a couple of blessed medallions and there was a couple of non-blessed medallions. Anytime one of the blessed ones went on him, he'd actually rip it off and throw it across the floor and say, "This is from the church," and he'd throw it across the floor.
Wow.
He began like hissing like a snake and babbling, like making no sense at all. I actually, like, one night he was out of control, so we took a little bit of holy water, just kind of made the sign of the cross on his forehead, and his nose started bleeding instantly.
Oh man.
Um, he began like kicking, hitting, biting. He hated everyone and everything. He actually told me I was gay. He looked at me and he's like, "Elliot, you're gay." And he does, like, he's the sweetest kid. He has like
He's
no
5 years old.
5 years old. He has
Yeah.
like no clue what any of this stuff is. Um, he began like sleeping in later. He was exhausted, and he stopped washing himself. Like, he didn't want to get washed. He was like dirty, and he went to school, and the school was saying like, the child's acting kind of like, strange.
Hmm.
So we went and picked him up that day, and I remember Haley saying to me, she goes, "How do you think he's gonna be when we pick him up from school?" I said, "I don't know." I was like, "This has been getting crazy."
Yeah.
I said, I don't have a good feeling." So sure enough, on the way back, he's doing the same thing. He's like hissing and like trying to like scratch us and like just acting crazy. And we
Ooh.
no sooner pull into her driveway, and all of a sudden, the recording that I had from the day before, where I was asking for a sign, starts playing over her Bluetooth in the car. And it started right at the part where I said, in Jesus's name, and in the in the name of Christ and in the blood of Christ, give me a sign. It started playing right there. So
Wow.
for that to have happened, she had her music on in her car, but somehow my phone connected to her Bluetooth system. It then searched my notes because I had it just recorded on voice notes on my
Wow.
iPhone, and so it activated that file, and then it skipped ahead to the part where I actually said that. So after that is when we decided to call the psychic back there, Heather,
Yeah.
and we ended up calling her back, and she came into the house and she did her little ritual thing. She's non-denomination, so she had like a bunch of sage and herbs and stuff that was being burnt into like a pie plate. And we went upstairs and did some praying, and Haley and I could feel like a cold presence in between the two of us. I could feel it on my right arm. She could feel it on her left arm. but none of the equipment was picking up anything. So the electromagnetic field radiation detector didn't pick anything up. The FLIR didn't pick anything up until we felt the cold kind of dissipate from between us. And I had the FLIR aimed at the bed, and you could see the pan. It was smoking hot because it was lit on fire.
Yeah.
You could see that, and all of a sudden, all around the pan was these like distorted footprints that were dark blue that appeared. And
Oh,
we didn't tell the psychic any of this was going on at the time. And all of a sudden, once the footprints were kind of towards the psychic said, "I actually feel like the presence is over by me now," she said. So, like, Haley and I kind of looked at each other because we could see it on the FLIR, and she had no idea that any of this was going on. She continued, doing her prayer and her ritual stuff, and all of a sudden, she said she feels like the presence is gone. We looked at each other and said, like, we don't feel any different or anything like that. And she said, well, it's not like in the movies, like the roof's not going to rip off and the walls aren't going to
yeah.
cracks in it and the windows aren't going to blow out or anything. But
Yeah.
surprisingly, that was in November of 2018, and surprisingly, there's been no activity in the house since then.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So that was one of the files where it was probably, well, it was the scariest file I worked.
Oh, I bet.
Because so much stuff happened, and that's just some of the like the dynamic stuff. There was other like haunting stuff that happened, like fire alarms going off 3 o'clock in the morning, and they would only turn off if you splashed them individually with holy water, because it
Wow.
was the type of fire alarm that like it's connected to your whole house.
Oh,
So
man.
if one goes off, they all go
Yeah.
off. If one turns off, they should all turn off. But
Yeah.
this one here, like you literally had to go around to each one and splash it with holy water for
Really?
it to stop.
Even though they were all
Um,
hardwired in together.
yeah, they were all hardwired in. We called KID, KIDD, the brand that makes them. They
Yeah.
had no explanation for it. They actually sent replacement ones. Yeah, they had no idea why it would do something like that.
Wow.
Um, we actually consulted with a Roman Catholic priest. That's a family friend.
Hmm.
Father Bob Bailey, actually, he's been on a few ghost hunting shows and stuff like that. He does deliverance work, or that's the formal name for exorcism type work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at the time, he was not able to help us out. He was reassigned to a different unit,
Okay.
and he wasn't very well himself. And in order for them to help with something like this, they need to be in like the right frame of mind and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So he kind of gave us some prayers that are like in his book that he would use. But again, we ended up going with the psychic as option B. And that seemed to work because, like I said, ever since November of 2018, there's been little or no activity at the house.
Wow. You still talk to them? Yeah.
Yep, still talk to them occasionally. They haven't had any issues. What we found out basically through the investigation is that Haley's a sensitive person,
Okay.
and spirits seem to be attracted to her because of her aura or whatever sense that she gives off. So they
Okay.
all come to her thinking that she can help them or they can communicate with her.
Wow.
She just doesn't have that skill set. So that kind of explained why her whole life, ever since she was a little girl, she's had these different spirits around her. But
Wow.
whatever this one was, like I said, there was a lot of things that it was either, like I said, a very malicious spirit, or it was you could go as far as saying it was like a demonic spirit.
Wow. They're lucky, I guess. Well, when you think of like movies and stuff, you think there's, you got to try it 2 or 3 different times and do different exorcisms and stuff like that. But I guess they're lucky that, they got the psychic in, the psychic did her thing, and that was it.
Yes, and they had that same house blessed before by Father Bailey. He had actually, this is when he was well, he had
Yeah.
come out and he blessed the house, and they had put Saint Benedict medallions at all 4 corners of the house and all that stuff, and it seemed to kind of like quell the activity for a little bit. But yeah, by the time I got involved in the picture, it was getting pretty bad.
Wow.
I have photos of her daughter with scratch marks that appeared on her back for no reason. Like I said, I've got a 1-minute audio clip of when or a video of when the fire alarms were going off and we were splashing them with holy water. I've got an audio clip of where I was in one of the bedrooms doing a house prayer, and I actually saw the doorknob twist as if somebody was going to come into the room.
Wow.
And I opened the door to see who was behind the door, and there was nobody there. And everyone was downstairs at the time, and there's no way that they could like run up the stairs, and it was just the distance. It would be impractical.
Wow.
I've got a picture, like I said, from the flare with those strange footprints seen on the bed cover and stuff. So it was quite the case. But the one thing I learned about that was not to provoke entities, because I had always, read about it, heard about it, seen it on TV as well. But after living through the experience, I can see how it is extremely dangerous, because when you ask for a sign, you might not get the sign that day, but every time we had asked for a sign, we ended up getting something. So whether it was the fire alarms going off or that clip playing, sometimes it would be delayed. It would take a day or two, but you would get your response. But it's not instantaneous.
Wow, that's insane. What a story. So how long did that whole, incident, the time frame, I guess? How long
that whole thing happened from May of 2018 until November of 2018.
Okay.
Now the whole family had experienced haunting stuff before that.
Wow.
In fact, the cover of Evil in Exeter has like this creepy guy with like a pale gray face on it. We actually had our graphic designer model that image off of a drawing that Haley had done when she was like 16 years old, because she had actually seen the apparition. She was in the kitchen of her parents' house, and she was dating this boyfriend that was not so nice. And he was coming in to pull her hair. They had just gotten back from a carnival, and he was going to come pull her hair. And all of a sudden, she must have had this look on her face, because he turned around as well. And in the door frame was this 6-foot figure with this pale gray face and like no eyes, like they were just like completely black, like soulless. And he freaked out once it disappeared. He like freaked out and ran out of the house, and he never came back. And the image burned in Haley's mind, so she had sketched this pencil drawing of him. So we actually gave that drawing to the graphic designer, and that's how we came up with the cover for the book. So she had actually seen the entity herself. I had never seen the entity myself.
Okay.
We described it to Bob Bailey there, the priest, and he said he was kind of unsure as well. He said, basically, and this is a quote from him, he said, "If it is a damned soul, you treat it like a demon anyway. Either way, they're both creatures of hell." And he got the damned soul from the black eyes.
Okay.
So basically, he said, even if it's not a demon, you treat it like it is anyway. And the theory behind ghosts, like what parapsychologists believe, is that when somebody dies and the human consciousness moves on, is that we stay the same. So like, you're a pretty funny guy and everyone loves you. So if you passed on, you'd be the same Jason. You wouldn't like move into the afterlife and become like this, this mean old Jason kind of thing. You'd stay the same. So that's why in this case, either this person was like a really miserable person to do all this and manifest all this behavior, or like I said, it was something dynamic.
Wow, that's insane. Wow. So so let's go with Halifax. So how long have you been investigating in Halifax, and what is your, I don't know, scariest investigation that you guys have went on up there?
Well, in Halifax, I guess I've been doing it since 1997 up in Halifax. Now, mind you, I moved around with the RCMP. So in 2005, 2004, 2005, I went out to Regina for training. Then I was in Penticton, BC. Then I was up in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories for 5 years, and then back to Nova Scotia in 2013. But the one investigation that stands out for me up in the Halifax area was a private house in Kentville, Nova Scotia. It was an older house. And the family had just moved in, and they didn't really touch much of the house. It was as is. It was, 1800-year-old house. Sorry, built in the 1800s.
Okay.
Um, and she saw some faces in some of her photographs in the wood. So she sent those pictures, and kind of interesting. We're like, okay. Then she also said that she had a basset hound pass away, and that she's seen like the ghost of her basset hound walking around the house, and that her husband and her have heard footsteps walking up and down the stairs, and also that pennies just materialize at the house. So I was like, okay, I was like, there's quite a bit of stuff going on here. It's probably worth a visit. So took a team down, and we went and we sketched the house out. We had all the rooms laid out, and we we stayed up all night with the homeowner. So the husband went upstairs with the two kids. We searched the house, the kitchen area specifically, for any pennies. There was nothing there. The house was spotless. She showed us the jar that she kept putting the pennies in, because every time they found them, they just kind of threw them in a glass jar.
Wow.
And we had a camera set up, and I'd have an investigator go check the camera every hour on the hour just to make sure it's still recording, that the battery didn't die, that there's no issues. And sure enough, one of these times when the investigator went to go check, there was a shiny penny right at the base of the tripod, just outside of the camera range.
Of course.
And of course, right? So we reviewed the video. You can't hear anybody walk up to it until the investigator goes to check the tape. And it was in such an area that nobody could like backdoor us, kind of thing. Like, we had the area all covered off. So we thought that was really interesting. We're like, you know what? Usually when you come to these investigations, you're only there for a short period of time. Nothing happens. You might not come back. Something actually happened this time. So, we'll come back. We're getting strange EMF readings as well, by the staircase, where they said that they heard footprints. So
Okay.
we ended up coming back for a second night of investigation. And this time, one of my investigators has the idea to go down to the basement and shut the power off to the house. So we're getting readings on the EMF reader by the stairs again. So we went to turn the power off, and sure enough, the readings stopped. So we had them turn the power back on, and sure enough, readings pick up again, and they're higher than normal. They were above 3.0 on the Gauss reader. So he ended up following the wires in the basement and came across like some unshielded wires that were giving off like unhealthy amounts of electromagnetic energy. So that was kind of interesting. So we started thinking, okay, maybe there's there's some scientific information going on here that might be causing the haunting. There's been lots of case studies saying that when the human brain is exposed to excess electromagnetic energy, that people can start to see and hear things that emulate a haunting. So we're thinking that. But then two of my investigators are outside with the night vision, and they're looking at the upstairs bedroom, and they can see a shadowy figure on the night vision kind of walking back and forth in one of the bedrooms.
Wow.
So they get on the radio and they ask if any of the investigators are upstairs, and at that time there was nobody else upstairs. So one of my investigators goes upstairs, opens the bedroom door, and sees an apparition of a little girl sitting on the bed. And all of a sudden the apparition disappeared. He starts getting on the radio. He's like screaming for us to come up, like he's like in a panic.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, what's going on, right? So we go upstairs, and he's like, listen, this is what I just saw. We put the EMF readers on the bed. We're kind of getting some hits on it.
Yeah.
And then we had a reverend on the team at the time, actually. And when he opened the closet door, all five of us, there was about five of us in the room, I think, could feel like this like ice cold Arctic air like go like right through us, like so much so that it took our breath away. And then it just kind of disappeared. And at that time that happened, the EMF reader was going crazy, and then it just kind of stopped.
Wow.
And no other pennies or anything showed up at that time. So it was a really interesting case, just because you had two investigators see a figure in the window. You had one of them actually go check it out and see a full apparition.
Yeah.
You had a penny show up out of nowhere, which we can't explain.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of cool because we did find some issues that might be causing some of the haunting stuff, such as the unshielded wires. That kind of explained at least the high readings near the stairwell, at least.
For sure. Yeah,
So it was a really cool case, and that's one that stands out to me for sure, up towards the Halifax area.
absolutely. And it's great to go in and like say, first thing we try to do, like especially when we go out and do it, the first thing you got to try to do is debunk it. If something happens and you're not sure what it is, we always try our best to, get rid of it, right? Because you can't believe everything, obviously. And it's good to be a little bit of a skeptic, like you said, right? So, as you know, but yeah, so is there any places, local or not local, that you would love to get to that you haven't got to?
Um, yes, not so much to do an investigation because I know you can't get there, but the
I
one
know.
thing I would love to do is to get to the outskirts of Area 51. That's something that I've always wanted to do and get my
Okay.
picture next
You
to
you might get shot
the
though.
well,
Yeah.
well that's just it. That's why I like you can't do an investigation there. But it would be awesome to just like kind of track down like the black mailbox that they call it and
Yeah.
make it to the gate kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I've been to Vegas twice and never like rented a car and just gone out and explored. So that's definitely something that
You'd like to
I
do.
would like to do. I've
Yeah.
seen some cool spots like when I was down in the States there. Like I said, Mercy Brown is a vampire, alleged vampire in Exeter, Rhode Island.
Wow.
Um, I saw the Conjuring house, which doesn't look anything like it does on the movie. It actually
Of
is
course
like
not.
a brown bungalow type house. In the movie, it's like a great big like old style home that you would see around Nova Scotia.
Wow. Did you get to go in
I've
or did you just get to look at it?
No, at that time there was a million no trespassing signs
Oh
by
yeah,
the
I
owner,
bet.
and so what happened is these people had appeared on Ghost Hunters, a TV show, and had said that the house was haunted and stuff like that. Then the movie The Conjuring came out. Then the popularity of the house exploded.
Yeah.
They had trespassers like at all hours of the night. They had
I
people
bet.
phoning their home at like 3 a.m. So they got
Yeah.
really frustrated and they ended up selling the house. So a new owner has the house now, but the
Okay.
new owner is like very pro paranormal. So he's actually letting people go in and investigate. He's actually had so Ed and Lorraine Warren were the ones that did the Conjuring case. He's
Yeah.
actually let his let their brother son-in-law Tony Spira, who runs the New England Society for Psychic Research, go back in all these years later and do another investigation
Really?
on it. I think Zach Baggins might have went there as well with Ghost
Okay.
Adventures. So it's kind of cool right now because they're very pro paranormal. So if that was something that you were interested in down that way, you might be able to get in. I've seen the Snedeker House, which is the house that the movie Haunting in Connecticut is based on.
Nice. Right on.
Used to be the old funeral home where there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the basement.
Wow.
Got to see that while I was in Connecticut, and got to see a lot of cool sights. Like I got to see the grave of Ed Warren. Lorraine was still
Oh,
alive at the time, but
okay.
I got to go see their grave, and actually it's a very tall monument, and it actually has the New England Society for Psychic Research logo engraved in it.
Really?
So yeah, I got to see some really cool stuff. But as for like investigation, I mean, there's probably a lot of places I'd love to investigate, but I know the one thing on my list is to go to the outskirts of Area 51 and get a picture next to that don't cross or we'll shoot sign.
I know. I still think you're gonna get shot if you do that.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But I like say I'd love to go. I got to be a guest on Mysterious Circumstances podcast with Justin Rimmel, and him and I were talking about because he's done episodes on Billy the Kid, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Jesse James, you name it, and I love that stuff, man. Wild West. I must in another life I must have been an outlaw, probably a terrible one, but I'm sure I was one. But anyway, I'd love to go to Tombstone. I've always wanted to go to Tombstone. Not just because the movie was so awesome, but just because you hear so many stories, right, of investigators having experiences there, and just that would probably be one of my top places for sure that I'd like to check out.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. You don't have a whole lot of that around here per se.
No,
So yeah, that
very
would be
few,
cool.
very few desert ghost towns in Nova Scotia.
Yeah. There's a lot of like abandoned towns, or there was a guy going around recently I saw in the paper he was documenting those like off the map type graveyards. And
Cool.
that was really cool. He's supposed to make it public so let people know where they're at, but they're kind of like forgotten graveyards of Nova
Yeah.
Scotia. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of old cemeteries around here. So
Oh, for sure. And like I say, we have a lot of ghost towns. Well, not, I think 5 or 6 really well-known ones up in the valley and areas like that. Love to check them out too. Roxbury, and there's a couple up that way. Have you ever been to any of them, Elliot?
the brother-in-law Andrew took me to see where the Battle of Bloody Creek was.
Nice.
And he was telling me the ghost stories that he's heard. So late at night, apparently, you can hear screams in the woods. Almost sounds like a battle's actually going on. It sounds like people are being knifed and stuff like that. And you can imagine the traumatic history that would be involved in the environment there. So it kind of makes sense
Sure. Yeah,
that there's some stuff replaying over and over again.
because that was the French and the British, correct? Around the
Yeah.
same time as the Fortress of Louisbourg, that whole.
Yes, yeah, and they were trying to kill the indigenous, and the indigenous, were trying to kill them. So there was a lot of loss of life there, and
Wow.
usually in environments like that, they're ripe for hauntings.
Absolutely. That was Port. Is that Port Royal?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. I was there once.
yeah. It's a cool little spot.
And I didn't realize it was that small. So I made the mistake of telling Irene, my wife, that it was a huge, huge place like the Fortress of Louisbourg when we were on our honeymoon. Anyway, when we got there, the only highlight.
Oh, it is nothing like Louisbourg. Yeah,
I know. I didn't know at the time. I got chased by a bee, and that was the only thing that she found entertaining about the whole thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
I loved it, man. But I love all that stuff. But yeah, I didn't realize it was that small.
Very small. Yeah, very small.
Still like to check it out, though. That'd be a cool spot to check out.
It is. Yeah. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got about 4 minutes left.
Well, you were asking about haunted objects, so
please.
I saw on your Facebook that Heather had posted that item, that haunted monkey, and I'm not normally one to go and like grab haunted stuff because Etsy and eBay are ripe with fraud. A lot of people are trying to sell porcelain dolls, saying that they're vessels, spirit vessels, so that these dolls have spirits in them and whatnot. But this, I actually tracked down the guy that was selling it, and he told me that he owns a flea market. His family owns a flea market, so they go around buying stuff. And there was an old fella that died in Missouri, and his sisters were really creeped out by this monkey that he had made because it's got like these doll hands and like this googly eyes and all this stuff. And so for whatever reason, they decided to buy it, and the son that I was dealing with to buy it had kept it in his house. And he said that this monkey would move on its own, almost like the Annabelle doll. He said they would come home and find this monkey in different spots of the house, that it would be active at nighttime. So they ended up getting so scared that they locked it into a chest and put a padlock on it. And so he ended up selling it on the buy and sell. And then like I said, I tracked it down. Maybe I got ripped off, but it is in the mail. He sent me the tracking number, so it's on the way now. And when I get it, I plan on setting up some of the Nest cameras and taking some of the equipment and stuff like that, and doing some experiments to see if anything happens.
Yeah, Sarah's okay with this?
She is a little freaked out, and
she should be.
In fact, I have to go see her dad at his work and buy a lock for my office because she wants it locked. So
no, if you tried to send that to my house, I would be sending it directly back to you, my friend.
Well, because I don't have a whole lot of stuff like in my office. I do have a piece of the foundation from Caledonian Mills Fire Spook.
Nice.
And they say if you take anything from the farm, that your house will burn down. I've had the thing with me for years. Nothing has ever caught fire in my house, knock on wood.
Your house hasn't burned down once.
No. So I do have that in my office. And I do have a rock from the Red Creek, the Bloody Creek.
Nice.
And I will have this monkey. So I'll definitely send you the video.
I can't wait to
I'll
hear
send you the video if he moves.
Yeah, please, yeah. I want to see that. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't normally buy that kind of stuff because, like I said, Etsy and eBay are rife with fake.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But this guy seemed legitimate. I went on to see what he sold in the past, and he never advertised anything else as being haunted.
Okay.
The guy was completely honest with me on Facebook. Like I asked, I said, "Do you know like the town it came from?" He gave me the town. I said, "Do you know the sister's name that was selling it?" He said, "No, I don't remember that." So he gave me as much information that he could about it as possible. So
Wow.
yeah, so I'm kind of curious to see once it arrives what happens. And
I can't wait. I can't wait for that update.
yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Sarah's a little freaked out, but
When
I
she
told
kicks you out, when she kicks you out of the house and you and the evil clown are living on the streets, I want to see that update too.
well, she kept saying if it comes into the bedroom, she's sending them right to my side of the bed. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll wake up with a duct tape to you.
well,
That's awesome.
I told her if it gets really bad, I'll my buddy Daryl Walsh is into collecting haunted stuff as well. So I said I'll
Perfect.
just drop it over to Daryl's house and tell him I said I'll just say like it's not doing anything at my house. Maybe we'll check your house out and just leave him with
Just
it.
just leave it on his doorstep and ring the doorbell, and then he'll just walk out, and there it'll be.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of funny too because I had tried to message that girl that was on your book that night that they said they had this mirror that they wanted to get rid of right away and stuff like that. And I was gonna have Andrew go pick it up the next day, but they wanted to get it out of their house like that night, so they ended up getting.
Okay.
I don't know what they did with it, but I would have taken it off their hands. Because the one thing I learned from studying the work of Ed and Lorraine Warren is that you can't destroy these things because all you do is like if it is a haunted object and you destroy it, all that's doing is just kind of like releasing the entity to go attach itself to something else. Kind of,
Something else. Yeah.
you have to kind of contain the vessel, right? So
Absolutely. You got to be careful with that stuff.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. We're just about out of time. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys had me, and
Yeah. I wish Doug could have been here.
yeah, it would have been
It's been
fun.
on a dandy. But hey, we're gonna have another one. We'll get you back on.
Yeah, for sure.
I know there's plenty more we got to talk about, and I want to talk about Blackett's Lake a little bit, maybe on the next one.
Sure, yep.
Absolutely, buddy. All right. Appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you. Hey, maybe we'll get that coffee in a couple days.
All right, man. Sounds good. Just let me know.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you
Okay.
soon. Thanks,
Okay.
Elliott. See
Yep.
you, buddy. Bye.
Bye.